challenge them that you have to hang on in there even when you feel like throwing in the towel. He writes to let them know that you cannot quit. He writes to let them know that you cannot back down. He writes to let them know that you cannot back up. He writes to let them know that you should not be still unless it is a mandate from God to be still. And as soon as God tells you to move, you have to start moving. He writes to let them know that they have to possess a faith that even though you're dealing with pain, you have to find a way to push and to press through your pain. He writes to let them know that I know you get tired every now and then. I know exhaustion is kicking in, but you have to find a way to keep on pressing on. He writes to let them know that I know that every now and then you have a desire to give up, but you got to hang on in there just a little while longer. Is there anybody here this morning that says, yeah, I camped out on that avenue where I wanted to give up every now and then? Is there anybody here this morning? It's just family. Let's be real. Raise your hand if you ever camped out on that part where you wanted to give up and say, I cannot go on. Okay, some of y'all ain't never felt like giving up. You ain't never felt like quitting. Okay, let me call the roll. There's some people here this morning that says, I felt like giving up because I get tired sometimes trying to make $1 out of 15 cents. I've grown tired and I wanted to give up. Okay, let me call the roll. Is there anybody say, when my check is spent and I don't know where my money went, I feel like giving up every now and then. When the gas that I put in the car at the end of the week costs more than the money I take home from my job at the end of the week, God knows I feel like giving up sometimes. But the fact that you're here this morning means that you are a survivor. The fact that you're here this morning means that you've made up your mind you're going to run on in the race. The fact that you're here this morning says that you've learned how to take a licking and still keep on ticking. Is there anybody here this morning? That's your testimony that I am a survivor. I've been through hell and high water, but my testimony is I'm still standing. Is there anybody here this morning that says I've taken some lickings, I've had my heart broken, I've had my feelings hurt, I've been lied on, I've been talked about, but at the end of the day, my testimony is drag me through the mud, but I'm still standing. Is there anybody here that says the only reason I'm still standing is because I've made up my mind that I'm going to run on and see what the end is going to bring, that I refuse to quit, I refuse to give up. And that's what the Hebrew writer writes to the early church. He writes to remind them, he writes to remind you and I that is at these times we must cling to our faith in God and understand that there is a purpose for our living. He writes to let them know you have to cling to your faith in God and understand that there is a purpose for you from God. John Maxwell put it this way: you have to have the faith to believe that there is a purpose for your life, and you have to learn how to tap into that purpose. John Maxwell says a purpose will motivate you. When you know why you're living, you find reasons to get up in the morning. When you know there is a purpose on your life, you look forward to the next challenge. When you know that there is a purpose on your life, you're motivated to say, you may have got me on yesterday, but praise be the Lord, I'm going to come out victorious on tomorrow. Maxwell says you have to discover your purpose because a purpose will keep you, help you keep your priorities focused. Did you catch that? He says you have to discover your purpose because a purpose will keep your priorities focused. He says when you have a purpose in life, it's just certain things you know that you cannot do because it will hinder you from getting to where you're trying to go. And that's why you got to learn to tell your girlfriend, no, I can't party with you on a Wednesday night because my purpose is calling me come Thursday morning. No, I can't miss church on a Sunday because my purpose is calling me to live through a Monday, through a Saturday. There's a purpose for my living. There's a purpose for me being here. Can I just pause? Because some of you looking like you don't believe there's a purpose on your life. Think about all the things that should have took you out. Think about all the things that should have had you 6 feet under. Think about all the things that should have done you in. But the fact that you're here, think about all that you've gone will keep your priorities focused. But then he says a purpose will develop your potential. When you know you're going somewhere, you set out to make sure that you're situated to be in the right place at the right time. Because today just might be the day that God is going to turn your life around. But not only that, he says a purpose will give you power to live in the present. I like that one, Maxwell. Say it again. Maxwell said, let me rewind it. He says a purpose will give you power to live in the present. Someone must have asked the writer of Hebrews, what do you mean? You don't know what I'm going through. How can I live in the present? I've got chaos and confusion all around me. How am I supposed to live in the present? Have you ever thought about that? With all the things that are going on around us, have you ever asked God the question, how am I going to live in the present? Well, the Hebrew writers gives a response. It's right there in chapter 12 of Hebrews, verse 1 and 8, reminding today's generation of the faith of yesterday's generation. I like that. I like that. Look what he tells them. Therefore, we also, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses. In other words, he's reminding the then generation. He's reminding today's generation of the faith of those that have come before us in yesterday's generation. And the writer is saying, I know you can run the race of life and finish well, because after all, consider all those that have come before you. He says, in your blood, you have an that when you give God your best, God will turn around and bless you beyond your wildest expectations. And that's why you got to move by faith. Look at someone and say, you got to move by faith. But then he also tells them that in your blood you have a Noah who built the ark, Noah who had never seen rain. But when God told him to move, he began to move. That's the type of faith that he says you need to have on the inside of you. That even when you don't have all the answers, even when you cannot see the outcome, you have to still believe that if God is telling me to move, if God is telling me it's time, then it's time to move and it's time to get busy. He says, okay, you have in you the blood of an Abraham, who without the aid of any medical technology was able to produce a son in his latter years, because he understood that nothing shall be impossible with God. He says, yes, in your bloodstream you have the faith of a Sarah. When God said you're going to birth a seed in your olden age, she laughed at first, but then she came back and said, my God can do anything but fail. And I'm wondering, are there any witnesses here this morning say, I believe that my God can do anything but fail? Okay, that's Old Testament. Can I come new school? When I think about all those that have gone before me, every now and then when I would start to complain, I have to pause and say, Lord, forgive me. Because isn't it amazing how those who came before us had less than us seem to have had